The video in the background is a demonstration of the EMR from a laptop computer and the jump when the Wi-Fi is enabled. The meter starts reading in millivolts per meter, or 1/1000th of a volt per meter, and later jumps to measuring in volts per meter. The meter is measuring in millivolts per meter, or 1/1000th of a volt per meter. This fluctuation is normal atmospheric or ambient background count, roughly between 30 and 50 millivolts per meter. Note during boot up it rarely exceeds 50 millivolts per meter. The Wi-Fi is off. We'll also set it so that it picks up the maximum that it spikes to when it sends out a Wi-Fi signal. Once it finishes booting up, we will turn the Wi-Fi on. Under 50 millivolts per meter before the Wi-Fi is turned on. Why am I concerned about the effects of the exposure of microwave radiation, electromagnetic radiation, frequency, radio frequency? For the purposes of this discussion, they are synonymous. In 1972, I experienced a massive dose of microwave radiation, 400 or more times a cell phone typically emits. Apart from an interesting story about the experience and a sudden warming sensation on the side of my face, nothing to report, until on schedule. 30 years later, a massive acoustic neuroma in the same location as the exposure. Turn the Wi-Fi on, and it spikes to over 7 volts, or 7,000 millivolts per meter. Even higher spikes when we attempt to connect to a wireless network. Roughly 8.5 volts per meter is what this sends out. It must be noted, this meter only measures one of the two Wi-Fi frequencies that this computer transmits. Acoustic neuromas are a benign tumor in the sheath around the balance nerve and inside the skull. They are benign, but a tumor that takes 2 operations, over 20 hours of surgery by a highly skilled neurosurgical team, and more treatment is serious whether it is malignant or benign. The remaining bits require an annual checkup at the cancer agency. My checkup this month was good, as this was the 5-year mark since the last surgery. He has extended the visits to once every 2 years. Turn the Wi-Fi off and it reduces down. An expected consequence of the surgery: palsy on the left side of my face, difficulty speaking, loss of hearing in my left ear, and compromised balance were the compromises for having a massive tumor slowly growing inside my head, causing in effect an increasing concussion on the brain before it crushed my brainstem, and I lost my life. Removed. Moderate use of a cell phone for a period of years is associated with causing acoustic neuromas. This was one of the prime reasons why the World Health Organization Subcommittee, the International Association for Research on Cancer, or IARC, classified radio frequency as a Group 2B carcinogen. Recently, research shows the risk should be elevated to Group 2A, probable, or even a Group 1, causes cancer. Yes, look at the left side of my face. Microwave radiation has caused significant life-altering disability for me. My research into the topic to support my claim with the British Columbia version of Workers' Compensation Board known as WorkSafe BC, I've acquired a considerable library on the harmful biological effects of electromagnetic radiation. I have also learned considerable about the proper way to measure and understand radiation. I have learned there is what could be called an area of extreme danger close to the antenna called the near-field zone, where spectacular peaks and valleys of radiation occur. The BC Centre for Disease Control refers to the zone as chaotic. According to some experts, the spectacular peaks could exceed the simple calculated effect by 100 or more times. Multiply what the typical Wi-Fi enabled laptop computer transmits by 100 easily exceeds the lax RF standards of countries like Canada and the US. Neither the FCC in the US or the Canadian equivalent, Industry Canada, along with Health Canada, seem concerned that people using laptops may be exposing themselves to harmful levels of radiation. This could be the reason why a friend of mine recently died of a sudden and rapidly growing ovarian cancer shortly after having a laptop on wireless virtually glued to her lap for 2 years. In a recent peer-reviewed journal, the research expressed concern for the public in a transit depot when their meter exceeded the maximum reading they could obtain of 6 volts per meter in the electric field. To put the amount of radiation I was exposed to and rooftop workers near antennas may be exposed to before adjustments for the near field are considered, I was exposed to almost 110 volts per meter. WorkSafe BC, in addition to proving they wish to remain ignorant, read my claim, have proven themselves incapable of establishing regulations that will protect rooftop workers from exposure to the amounts of radiation I received. I spent 2 months at the BC legislature trying to raise awareness regarding the safe distances around rooftop antennas. WorkSafe did promise a safety alert or similar would be released soon. That was months ago. Silly me, I thought WorkSafe BC was demonstrating an honest concern when they met with me and told me they had been working on guidelines and expected to release them soon. This series of videos is also dedicated to the tower workers around these antennas. Some I know have died from a very closely related health condition to an acoustic neuroma, referred to as neurofibromatosis. Yes, many people are dying from exposure to microwave radiation, and the government agencies responsible for public health are keeping their head firmly buried in the sand. They continue to evade making the public aware of the potential harm, and even though many of their documents allude to reasons for concern and provide good information on how to measure radiation and in some cases reduce the risk. A notable exception in these is WorkSafe BC. They don't seem interested in understanding the problem and have made a minimal effort to warn and protect workers from the hazards of radiation. It is also important to note that no legislation in Canada protects the public from radiation. Safety Code 6 is a guideline and not intended to protect the public. With more and more sources of radiation every day, isn't it time the government and WorkSafe BC, as well as other workers' compensation boards, stepped up to protect the people they are responsible for?